And I think the due date on those, does anybody see it right in front of them? I have to grab my copy of it.
But I can do mine too if you want. They have, here, I was going to say, I can drop it off. As far as,
30th.
Yeah, so we have time on it. So we can actually, we can hold off on this until the next board meeting if the board wants an opportunity to make sure that you've reviewed it, or, Brian and I have plenty of time to execute the actual copies that are here. So.
Does there anybody need more time, or have you had an opportunity to look at it?
Is it changed at all from last year that you know?
I have not done a side-by-side on it, Tara, so I'm not exactly sure. They tend to be relatively the same year in and year out, but I can't vouch for it being identical.
So does anyone need more time? Or are you all set? Or do you want to wait until next meeting?
I think I'm all set.
I'll go down the line. Tina,
All set.
Tara said you're all set. Rob?
Yeah.
Rob?
Unmute. He's on mute.
Rob, thumbs up? There's a thumbs up. He's set.
All right, Rob's a yes. And Liz?
Yes.
Liz,
Said
thumbs
yes.
up?
Thumbs up.
And Brian's a yes. So I'll just sign those off later on with Mike.
All right, perfect.
Excellent. That is going to bring us to high school scheduling.
High school scheduling. So I've invited Bill Lonergan to join us for the discussion. He and Jody, as you know, were in the last time that we were having the conversation, and they've invited Kate Devine in. So after our last discussion about the AP Bio, as you know, there were numerous parent communications and letters that came in. We gave an opportunity for the high school to take another look at it to try to find, what's the right solution on this. Mary has pulled a bunch of data relative to the scheduling of AP classes. And, having AP biology, so this is what we've learned. And Mary, jump in anytime, or Bill, jump in anytime. When you're talking about AP lab sciences, they do tend to be all year experiences, just because of the amount of time it takes in order to get the lab class in. So I know the board had talked about this last time, but in fact, when it comes to AP chemistry and AP biology, there is a longer time commitment for those. We've also surveyed around schools in our area, and the decision rule that we're following, guideline rule really, which is to have 15 students in order to run a class, or if it's a capstone course like an AP, to allow it to be run with 10. That is in fact aligned with what other districts are doing. So we didn't come up with a guideline that was askew of what others were doing. In fact, everybody has a 10-15 ratio from what I saw. So Mary, let me just yield to you a minute, make sure that I captured all that correctly.
Yeah, I polled a lot of our area, the South Central region, and what we found is it was split about 50-50 in terms of the group that met daily and the group that met every other day. There are a number of schools that do some sort of a hybrid. A lot will do one semester of the AP Bio and then a half semester of lab, or a one period lab. So there's a lot of different ways that people are getting at it, but I would say at least 50% to 60% are doing more time in those lab sciences. In terms of the cutoff, though, in terms of the minimum number, that was pretty consistent between 10 and 15 across the board. That was their goal. They shot for 10 or 15. And that wasn't specifically the lab sciences, that was in AP classes in general.
So based on that, and Bill has invited Kate, but I've now switched my screen off, so I can't see if Kate is with us. But we've come up with this proposal. So the high school really would like the opportunity to run the AP biology next year. They've gone back to the students. If you remember, there were 8 students originally, and we were unsure if we could get all 8 in. But Jody has done more work, and we've actually identified 9 students who are interested in taking the AP Bio. And Jody can guarantee scheduling all 9 of those. She found a slot for it that will get all of those requests into the seat. And there's a strong possibility that an additional 3 students could join, which would put us at 12. So we would have the ability to run it with 12. AP Chemistry would also run, and there would be 12 students in it. We would not run Environmental Science. How would we staff it? There's a couple of options. Option 1 is that we run a 6-block for Kate Devine to teach the AP Bio. And for Raheem to take on an extra forensics class. So I'm not sure why this says Joanne Ray, AP Chem. Bill, can you just verify, was Joanne having a 6-block? Because I didn't think that was the case.
That was the case. We had planned originally to have both AP Bio and AP Chem run, and the AP Chem is a lab class, so it would be a 6-block for her as well. And Jody, shake your head if I'm wrong on that, but that was the planning, correct?
The original plan was that we were going to have, let me just double check my spreadsheet, but I know there was definitely 1 6-block in science.
Yeah.
So that'll be 2 6-blocks.
3, because it would be Kate and Raheem. So in order for Kate to take on the AP Bio, the forensics class would have to shift over to Raheem, and he would then pick up 6-block. Kate would pick up the 6-block. And because remember, the AP Bio is a double period.
And AP Chem, is that a double period too?
It is, but I really thought we were running it without the 6-block. That's why I'm questioning that on the sheet.
No, well, not that I'm aware of, but I'm going to load. Jody's looking at the spreadsheet from the scheduling right now.
So
I thought we had Kate teaching the other forensics and needed to switch that out to Raheem. Am I incorrect on that, Jody?
So while she's waiting, in fact, we just got.
Sorry, I'm muted. I'm trying to open up our Google sheet right now, and when I'm doing that, I get glitched out and can't hear anybody.
Okay.
Because I think I'm oversaturated. I have way too many tabs open, so I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, I thought when we initially did the scheduling, we had Kate and Joanne with 6 blocks, and we had to move a forensics away from Kate to somebody else. Or did we not have to do that as we sort of push forward with the scheduling?
Nope.
Where we were in.
I just pulled it up. We do have Joanne with the 6-block.
Okay.
So
Yep.
3 6-blocks.
Okay. Now, how about in Raheem as well, though? Am I correct, Jody?
No, what would happen was Raheem would have to pick up something from Kate if she was to pick up AP Biology. So therefore, we would need Kate and Raheem to both have 6 blocks as well. So there would be 3 6-blocks in science.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
But we're not rehiring a part-time science teacher.
Correct.
That's correct.
So the extra cost to run AP Bio, if we add AP Bio in, the extra cost is the 2 6-blocks, which comes to about $15,000. Let's leave Joanne out of it because she was already scheduled for a 6-block anyway. That has nothing to do with whether we run AP Bio or not.
Correct.
It's adding it for Kate and then shifting one course over for Raheem is about a $15,000 add. Now there is a cost.
We're saving on a part-time teacher.
That is correct. But keep in mind that part of the reason we were not replacing Rosanna is because there's the cut in the salary line. So we were, we have a $200,000 cut to salaries for the district. So we were not replacing that position.
My concern is for the teachers. Hi, Kate.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Is it okay? I mean, is it asking too much to have 3 members of that science department taking a 6-block? I worry that we're, headed towards a burnout. I'm excited to see the dedication and the desire to go ahead and teach these courses, but I'm really worried about teacher burnout with that kind of a course load.
If I could, Christina, just kind of respond to that. That's something we think about, and I definitely always work with the members and survey them and say, hey, what are you up for? What are your feelings? What do you need? The reality is that local districts can offer our teachers a 10% pay increase immediately with just teaching 5 courses. So this is kind of a selling point to keep our good, smart teachers. And the reality in business is people don't leave jobs, they leave people. In other words, if you like who you're working with, if you like the team you're operating with and you love what you're doing there, you're going to stay. But, sometimes folks got to pay a mortgage. And if that turns out to be the deciding point, you got people on an edge of, God, I love where I work. I love these students. I love the people I work with. But God, I got to feed my kids. And they can go make that 10% and still teach a regular school. They're going to make that choice. But if we can say, hey, look, we can get you a plus one at least now, right? Until enrollment starts to drop, because this is what the kids want. This is what the kids are signing up for. Then we're going to keep them. And that's what I've thought as a business personnel or perspective. I want to keep my teachers engaged. Now, I'm always working with Mr. Lonergan on, if a teacher says, oh, no, I got enough, I got this, then absolutely, we'd go look for somebody else. We'll find somebody else. But you got to talk to your people, right? Isn't that what business people do?
So, Kate, I'm going to jump in for a second because I do want to just, if we're going to toss it out there, I think it's really important that we have data to back up claims that we're making. I will tell you, we just hired a teacher from a neighboring district who's getting a $10,000 raise coming to Litchfield. And so when we toss out there that anybody can just go and get more money somewhere else, that's not always the case. So I think it's just important that we recognize that, we want to have competitive teacher salaries, and our analysis is always paying attention to what's happening in other districts. So that's point number one. And point number two is, the teacher stress thing I'm really sensitive to, because right now we're hearing, and I get that remote learning is stressful, but there are significant changes that we've brought forward to Campbell High School, and teacher stress is something we continually hear back about. And, in the initial analysis of this, we were trying to pay attention to what's a reasonable workload, what's a reasonable ask of teachers when we have, Chromebook and one-to-one technology. There's so many moving parts that I just think we need to be careful to not overload our teachers. If 5 is the reasonable workload, then 6 has to be entered into very cautiously, and we need to continue to monitor that. And teachers who are then in 6, have to realize they've taken that on by choice, and that they can't resist other efforts because that they've taken on that extra workload. That's the only piece I think. There's a push-pull that goes with it. Newton's third law totally in play here. And so we just have to be mindful of that going forward. So, there is, as much as this proposal is suggesting or proposing that we do the 6 block, really hiring the part-time science teacher, maybe we cut too deep. Maybe we erred by not replacing Rosanna. And that now that the full scope of student requests and needs and abilities are there, that we ought to reconsider taking that risk, that maybe, that's going to be a little bit more expensive, but if the cost of it comes at not stressing out faculty, that's something that I think the board has to weigh in on also to see if it's a better route to go.
Sure. Could I respond to that, Mr. Jetty?
Of course.
Sure. As far as stress, when I started at Campbell High School 7 years ago, we did have a situation where we had a lot of part-time teachers. It's in science department. It's actually very disruptive to be teaching science and then have the part-time teacher come in and teach one class in your classroom and then another class in the other classroom, because when you have your classroom, you use your prep times to set up your labs, break them down. To have somebody else using that room to set up labs, break them down, actually was disruptive to the program. So we kind of worked to try to bring things in-house and not have somebody to teach, a couple of classes. Now, the exception has been Rosanna and Bill, because they've worked together. They know one another. They fit in nicely. I go back to Jim Collins and Good to Great for the business folks. You want to work good to great. You got to get the right people on the bus. You got to know where you're going. And I feel like that's what we've done over the last 7 years. And I really feel we've built this program up. And frankly, I'm very concerned. About, there seems to be a preoccupation about this +1. And I don't understand it, because I feel like by keeping those extra sections, it's just to in-house, we do save the district money, $30,000 approximately. The enrollment in the next few years is supposed to decrease. I don't want to bring somebody else on board. So if we have 4.5 teachers, basically 4.5 full-time equivalents, then you know what? Then we all go back to a regular 5-class teaching schedule. And then we look ahead at the members of the department who are ready to retire in about 5 or 6 years. And then we're at a 4 full-time teacher equivalent. I have been thinking ahead. So I don't understand. We have not changed the number of sections we're offering. We've provided a plan for how we increase enrollment, which gives you more bang for the buck. I am confused. I just really don't understand the debate.
Right, and my comment wasn't meant to discredit any of this planning or decisions. I just, I'm concerned about because the message that we do get from some teachers is that they're overwhelmed. I just want to make sure that we're not putting our awesome science teachers in that position in the name of maybe saving a few bucks. For me, it's less about the bang for the buck than it is, working with our teachers and doing what we need to do for our kids.
Sure. I'm responding because that's what I've heard from Mike is about the bang for the buck. But I think the reality is there have been some morale issues over the last few years. If I can be frank with everybody, there's been contract issues. We've had a lot of teachers leave. Now, those teachers have primarily been leaving in other departments. We have had nobody in my department want to leave. I feel like I try to go, under the radar, but I've been working with whatever leadership skills have been infused in me to develop a team there. So I advise Mr. Lonergan, and I think he advises Mr. Jetty, and I hope that's being heard. I'm confused by some of the. I talk to the teachers. My teachers, if they tell me no, I don't want a +1, I'll be first person I'm going to say no. That's not going to work. You know what I think? The morale issue of not apparently getting your teacher years, for how many years you've been teaching and things like that. But at this point, everybody in our department, I think, is fine. There haven't been morale issues, and I think everybody's eager for what we've discussed.
I thought the problem was only 8 kids in the class.
Right, Liz, thank you. I was just going to jump in because I think we're actually talking 2 different topics here.
Yeah.
Really, the conversation that we want to direct towards is the AP Bio, and there's new information right now because it sounds like we went from 8 students who are looking for AP Bio to now potentially 12. Is that what I heard?
Yes, that's correct.
So how many right now want?
13.
I'm sorry.
We have a number of other candidates, both with respect to AP Environmental, which is not being taught, but also some other students who are a little undecided between AP Chem, AP Bio. So we know we definitely have 10 right now that we can fit in there. And there's a good chance we can get another 2,
okay,
maybe 3 students.
So right now
We
it's,
haven't had 12.
Yeah, it's not 700 right now.
Yep.
right. So we have enough students to run AP Bio.
Yes, I think so now.
That's what it sounds like. That's what the conversation was. We seem to go off in different directions. Really, the conversation is, do we run the AP Bio? Now, it was 2 weeks ago, we had 8 students, and then was conversation how it's run and how it's not run. But that's kind of separate also.
Well, the other thing, last 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the fact that 8 students, that was student request to take the class. That wasn't even who was scheduled in the class. So really, it could have been less. So for me, it's the distinction. What is the 10? Is it requests? or is it who's actually scheduled in the class?
These are scheduled in the class.
The
Okay.
Jody said they
A
could,
couple of additional ones that Jody's been in conversations with.
and Jody said she can accommodate fitting them in that class. So you have an AP bio class right now that's filled.
And it will not be offered next year.
So, right, so it'll be offered next year, but not the following year.
It will be offered.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So,
So if you look at the plan, correct.
yeah,
Yep.
I like it.
AP Bio would run 1 year. It would gap for a year. AP Chem would do that year. Then the next year,
No.
AP Chem would gap in AP Bio. And the one sort of constant in there,
No.
if you
AP
look
Chem
at
won't
that
run.
little,
2 years.
that sheet is, well, two things. One is the push in November, in early December, to make sure we know what students are interested in taking what classes, sort of push that part of the conversation along. And the other is the AP Environmental Science, which we see as an important course. It doesn't have to run next year, but it's an important course to run yearly because for a couple of different reasons. It's an environmental, so it's an earth science. For our freshmen who take honors biology, they don't get an earth science class. And earth science is one of those sciences that it's supposed to be part of a student's high school experience. This would allow those kids to have that easy inroad. And as it says on the sheet there, the other piece is that it is a course that any student could take. It doesn't have the same serious extent of lab work or mathematical challenges, those things. And it's a 1 semester college course, which would translate into a year-long course at Campbell.
Okay.
I think I've kind of captured most of that. So that would be the one piece that we think just makes sense as well.
So Bill, if I can just clarify,
Oh, sorry.
no, if I can just clarify, I believe AP Bio, if it runs next year, would also run the following year, but AP Chem would not. And that would get it back into the cycle because AP Chem has run for 2 years, right?
Yeah, and Kate, you want to answer that?
Sure. Because we did add the AP Chem and we didn't run AP Bio this year, we are in a little bit of a quagmire this year. I will admit that.
Okay, but
Now, given that we've lost a part-time teacher and we're not adding any more sections.
okay, can we just? I'm sorry, Kate. Can we just go with? Can we just stick to the facts as far as when it's running? That's all I'm trying to get clarification on.
Yeah.
2021.
Okay, so next year,
2021.
we will, up front, before any scheduling happens, find out where the interest is, where we can get a full class enrollment, AP Bio or AP Chem.
Okay.
And then that's the one that will run, and then that will set the alternating pattern.
But we can't, it has to set a pattern at that point. You can't just take a student, because you run into this problem
No,
every 3
right.
years.
So that's-
It's got to be set in stone after the show.
Right. So my understanding that AP Chem runs 2021, AP Bio runs 2021, AP Chem does not run 21-22, AP Bio runs 21-22. Correct?
It's the AP Bio on 21-22.
Bio.
Bio.
Yep. And that gets it back, into the every other year. And then my understanding, the thing with AP Chem is because it was new and we didn't want to take a year off because that would just cause more concern. Is that correct?
That makes sense.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank
Right,
you.
and it allows a better sequencing of our courses
Yeah.
from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year to senior year, for all kids to sort of plan, where their strengths are, where their commitments are, what they're really interested in taking.
No,
But
and
I
I'm,
think it's something, Bill, because there are kids who haven't taken an earth science as a freshman. They need an earth science.
Yep.
They need to plan ahead.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, is natural disasters in earth science? Can they take that?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
But that's only a half year, isn't it?
There's 1 and 2 now.
Right.
If I may, I don't want us to commit to tonight what next year looks like, because the plan, if you look at the plan, it's for AP Bio and Environmental to run every other year, and so
Chemist, no.
That's the proposal. No.
I'm sorry, it's for Environmental and AP to alternate, and then to have Chemistry also alternating with the AP Bio. So you would have a year where you're proposing to get AP environmental in there also, was my understanding of it.
Can
Looks like
I,
that's every year, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about environmental every year.
can I
All right,
just jump
It's
in
Chem and Bio.
with a clarification on a statement that I know, Bill, you and I have talked about this before. Mike, you and I have talked about this before. The state requirement, if you come in as a freshman taking biology, you do not have to take you have to take a chemistry or a physics or physical science in order to meet your minimum standards. You do not have to take an environmental science per the state.
No, the other side of that, and is the, I believe, the SAS, the science assessment, includes earth science as well as chemical and physical. So
That may be, but when we're talking about kids that have, I mean, we're talking about seniors, if I'm hearing this correctly, that have to take an environmental science to meet their graduation requirements. And that is not a minimum standard by the state. They have to take physics, chemistry, or physical science.
Okay.
Mike, if I'm incorrect with that, please let me know. I just got verification from a science friend of mine.
That's the state requirement, Mary. You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
I don't know what our local requirement is. So we'd have to look at.
Okay.
If I may, because I'll tell you, I'm getting myself confused. I'm getting frustrated that something this simple is not clear. So what I'm going to ask is for us to zero back to the question of AP biology next year. I mean, we're committing to having
the rest of
a dozen students in there, and if the board gives us the thumbs up to do that, then let us go back and figure out how to communicate this and get an alternating plan that makes sense.
I was going to say, and then you can get.
I guess I need to be clear at this point. Are we offering AP Bio 2022, 21, 22? Because there are kids that need to take it this year, 2021,
You're in the
that
same
won't be
thing
able
next
to
year.
take it 21, 22.
And that's what'll need to be clarified, Liz. And I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to work out. That's the way I understood it. But again, like Dr. Jetty just said, what we're looking at right now is 2021. We're being told right now we have enough interested students, and we can fill the class and fulfill their schedule. They would put 10 to 12, maybe 13 students in there. So I think that's what we have on the table right now. So I'm going to make a motion to put AP Bio back in, based on those numbers.
I second.
Is there further discussion?
The only thing I'll say is I'm going to vote for this, but I still have a serious concern, as it was mentioned.
Yep.
The school population is going down. We've got 3 classes that are going to be taking a teacher for 2 blocks when we're probably going to lose teachers. I hate to say it, but if we lose another 40 students in the high school, and you have the equity issue that, again, I've talked to other schools where all AP classes, and I should point out, I talked to the school I teach in, I thought it was 2 trimesters. All AP classes are 3 trimesters.
Yeah.
That's my other concern is 3 years from now, 4 years from now, when there are another 40 students down, and you
Rob,
have 2 teachers.
I hear your concerns loud and clear, but I think what we're focusing on right now is 2021. Come 21, 22, it might be a totally different animal. But I hear what you're saying. You're right.
But I just have I'm not going to lie, I intended to vote against this. I'll vote for it because I think AP Bio should be next year. But I still have a serious concern with this, 2 classes for 8, 10, 12 students.
Yep.
And losing the teachers for bigger classes.
Right. Any other conversation? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So I'll go down the line, please. Tina,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. 5-0-0. Thank you.
Can I just ask one more question? Jody, how are you going to let the kids know, maybe not the kids that are going to be seniors, but the juniors, that they have to take AP Bio next year or it won't be offered the year after?
Well,
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're going to be kids that are going to be mad that it's not. I can't explain it.
Liz,
Well, it's one fun part of my job.
but Liz, I think the thing is, we know now, so if it's not gonna be offered the following year, we have
It's
time.
not on the table.
It's not, right, it's not like it was this year where kids are finding out they can't do it. If we have enough time enough, that's the case that they determine that they're not gonna run AP Bio 21, 22, we can get to those sophomores and say you're gonna take it as a junior. Right, Jody?
I'm telling you,
What Kate will do though is Kate will go in November and talk, and all the other science teachers, and they'll poll the students. So that's what they're gonna do with AP Bio, AP Chem for 21, 22, is they'll try to figure out how we're gonna fill, which class can we get more numbers in. And so what we'll do is that's all we're gonna offer to the students. So they have a course selection sheet that they can refer to, that students will then go into Power School and then have options to choose from. So AP Biology, if it's decided won't run 21, 22, it won't be available. And then those are conversations that we have individually as students about how to potentially fill that gap if the student truly feels that there's a gap there.
I think it needs to be in the course of studies.
Yeah.
With the description of the course, it needs to actually be in there so parents can.
Yeah, it is there. And the problem is I can't take a class out of the program of studies.
No, adding in the dates, the years that will be offered. And I think this has to be in stone.
And that's the way it used to be. Yep.
Can I ask one request, Mike?
Of course.
At our first meeting in September, can we get a firm number of seats filled in this class? And at our last meeting in October,
Yep.
a firm number of seats in this class?
Yeah.
We won't have that for a while.
Jody, I'm telling you right now, there'll be at least 3 kids signing up for the next 2 weeks if they think it's a possibility it won't run next year.
Right.
Okay, really.
And I have class changes for the first 5 days of the school year too. So my numbers are never solidified until day 6. So I could run numbers on day 6 of school. But until then, the kids do have the option to add or drop things.
Awesome.
We will certainly get class size reports back to the board, though. I mean, that's a reasonable request. And, what it might, so bio may end up being fine, but you may find some other course that has dipped. And so I think part of what we have to wrestle with is what Jody's talking about with student changing schedules. We have valuable resources. We allocate those resources based on student requests. And then when minds change, you can end up with something not running or running with a very low number in it. And so all of those are struggles that high schools deal with. And I think we have to keep the board appraised and try to figure it out, because it's only going to get more complex as that enrollment dips. Bill signed on to lead a high school of 450 students and is looking at ending up with a high school of 370 in a few years. So that's a major shift. And so we have to find a way to be nimble, meet needs, and still provide a rigorous program. So we have to stay on top of it. Perfect. Well, thank you all. I will, let me follow up Bill and Jody in the morning. Kate will follow up in the morning, and we'll take it from here. Thank you.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So as far as the next documents, CHS scheduling, teacher numbers, I don't think we need that.
Nope, those were all background documents from the last meeting. Yep.
Okay, so that'll bring us to GMS enrollment.
Yes, so just an update on where we are with GMS enrollment. And so the board's aware that we have a 3rd grade opening due to retirement.
Stop presenting.
Oh, am I still presenting?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. And let me go into full screen. Is that better for everybody?
Yeah.
All right. So we have at GMS, we currently have a 3rd grade opening due to retirement, and we now have a 4th grade opening due to retirement. So those positions are needing to be filled. And
You just said 2 retirements.
Who's retiring from 3rd grade? We're adding a 3rd grade.
oh,
right?
my apologies. Nope, hang
One
on.
retirement.
Right. That's an ad. That's an ad. My apologies. Not a retirement.
They had me panicked for a minute there.
Nope. I'm keeping track of all the moving parts here. So it's a third grade opening to fill in order to have the 5 third grades, and it is a fourth grade retirement that we need to fill. Right now, the first grade numbers. So we have contracted with 5 first grade teachers, and their numbers are as of today. So hot off the press registration, we have 79 students who have enrolled in first grade. 79 is 4 first grades, not 5. Your trigger point to add a 5th first grade is 84 students. We're using a projection of 90 so we budgeted for the 5th. Our number was projected to be 90 based on past trends, but we have not hit that yet. And so now we're in a scenario where we're going to need to transfer a teacher in order to have them teach 3rd or 4th grade. But I suspect that they really want to be back in 1st grade and are going to want to make a move later if an opening comes along. So really the question for the board is, with 79, which leaves you 5 shy, is it something that you want to make a decision to add at this point? Or do you want to hold out for the 84, which is what the policy guideline says? And remember that the first grade teachers advocated because they are receiving kindergartners who have, it's not even that they had a full year of a half-day program. They will have missed the last third of the kindergarten year completely by being in remote environment. And so they will come in having been out of school since March, then taking the summer time. And, if we open with bricks and mortar in the fall, they'll arrive without that experience. And so you're shy 5. I did the math. If we go with 4 classrooms, we have classes of 20. And if we have if we have 5 first grade classes, we would have classes of 16. So that's the swing that's being made here. But it's important we know that now, because it's a hiring decision for 3rd and 4th grade that we have to get after. So this is why it's all on the radar tonight. And I just need guidance and a decision from the board as to whether to hold out for the 84 or settle that we're going to have 5 first grades and hire the 3rd and 4th grade teachers. We need to know.
Mike, if there are kindergartners that teachers feel are not ready for first grade, will there be interventions over summer for them to help them get them up?
That's a great question, Tara. I can't actually answer that, and I'll tell you why. I think given what we're doing with the remote learning right now, I'm not sure what our summer programming is even going to look like. We were talking about ESY for our special needs students, and people were building ESY as a actual class. And I had said to Devin, I'm like, you got to switch this to remote. It's going to be easier to pivot back from remote if some of the restrictions get lifted and we can hybrid or go live than it is to assume that we're going to be live for summer school after July. I think they start after the July 4th holiday, and then to pivot back to a remote environment. So right now we're planning on remote. So that to me is another hard thing to answer. Like, what would that look like if we have kindergartners who aren't ready right now?
Right. Because it's my understanding that the state funds, gosh, I don't remember what they're called. I sent you guys an email on it, though. It's 75 or 85% of our Title I dollars. I don't think is it through the CARE Act, I think?
Yep.
Because my understanding is that there will be some additional dollars available. Some of that money can be used toward helping kids who didn't progress as far as we thought they were going to in this environment. And so wouldn't it be a prudent thing to try to figure out how we can make that, how we can get those kids caught up?
So let me just in terms of the dollars. So the CARE Act provides you 85% of your Title I funds. we get $98,000. So we're looking at around $80,000 in additional money that's available to us. So we can use that money in a variety of different ways. It really, as long as it's supporting student learning and is a result of responding to the COVID crisis, then we can earmark those funds, is my understanding of it. Here's the pickle. There's the academic component of it, but there's the procedural components of it, right? So when I walked into Sandy Doucette's classroom on the second, third, fourth day of class last year, she had all the kids having snack time. Everybody knew what the ground rules were for sort of having snack. And, you know, I know what it's like having snack with my two kids at home sometimes. It can get chaotic. So if I was trying to lead a class of first graders through that, I can see where that could be a chaotic situation. But she said no longer did it take her till October to get it to a nice environment, because they had modeled it and practiced it in kindergarten. They understood what it meant for a group to sit and eat together without touching each other's food and so forth. Those are the things that the CARE Act money is not going to help us do, because students are just going to come without some of those social components that they haven't practiced for a long period of time. And I'm kind of looking at Tina because she does the kindergarten piece. So I'm just speaking to what I observed, but Tina can probably explain
I
it.
was going to chime in. Absolutely. When we ended school on March 13th, I felt like we had just turned a corner and it was going to get easier from here on out. You know, it took till March to get all of those. This is how we line up, and this is how we treat our friends, and this is how we solve problems. And, you know, I just was beginning to feel like my kids were getting it as a kindergarten classroom. And then then they went home. And that was it. That was the end of that. That social emotional learning piece of it is critical. That's, 80% of kindergarten. Yes, there's the academic piece and we can help kids catch up, but we can't replace that social emotional stuff. And with a class of 21 kids at that point, if we said, okay, school's back in session tomorrow, those 21 kids would come back into my classroom and I'd still have the same rules, the same routines, but it would take me through the end of the year to reteach them all. And that's what our first grade teachers are going to be facing when we do go back to school.
But also think about too, before we had kindergarten a few years ago, a lot of kids were from different programs. At least they're all in our program, I mean, we're not going back 2 years. I feel like the kids, are in a bit better position than that. But
every grade's going to suffer with the same step back, whether it's academic behaviors, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. We're gonna see this stuff pop up all across all grades. What are the numbers? I didn't dive deep into that spreadsheet because it kind of gave me a headache with so many pages going back to 2011. What were the last few years? How many first graders have we added over the summer? I want to say last year we added about 10 at least.
But we need to follow structure. We did this for kindergarten.
Yep.
We waited till the trigger number.
Yep.
We can't just go willy-nilly. The trigger number, we're assuming, I don't know. I think we need to stick with something and go for it. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Well,
We can't guess. 1 year there was 7, 1 year there was 10. I know one kindergartner is going to be moving. I know one's probably staying back. And that's just that I know of.
I feel the same way. If we were going to vote on kindergarten at this point in time, I wouldn't be able to vote for an additional, kindergarten teacher because the numbers just aren't there yet.
First grade.
Third grade, I think, yes.
First grade we're talking about.
No, she's saying the kindergarten number.
Because of kindergarten.
First grade wasn't even an issue when I was looking at all the material ahead of time. But for me, kindergarten, I want to wait on that.
No, she's
myself.
kindergarten.
Third grade, I see that the numbers are there. So I think first grade for me falls in the same boat as kindergarten.
She's equating it.
And what I want to do is I know we'll need to move a first grade teacher to either third or fourth. Then we need to hire either a third or fourth grade teacher. And maybe you look at that and ask them another question is, would you be willing to, take a different grade? If the numbers climb to that, then you move that first grade teacher back to first grade. But right now, the numbers don't warrant it, going by our policy. And it's the same thing we looked at last year as far as kindergarten, and the number held. And registration is still open, so it doesn't mean like in a week or two.
I mean, here's another thought. We do have that FTE budgeted for next year. What if that FTE, if we don't need it?
What is that noise?
Wait, someone's breaking up. Hold on.
Corey, it's your speaker.
Again.
What?
I don't know, your speakers, something's coming through. Can you just mute yourself a minute?
All right, go ahead, Tina.
Oh, sorry. I think,
You look for the green.
I forget what I was going to say. I think basically, we have that FTE in the budget for a fifth first grade classroom because we expected enrollment to get up to that point to need a fifth first grade. What if that FTE becomes a support person in the case that we don't need a first grade teacher, but, somebody who is, can do a readiness program I don't want to cut a position that we've already budgeted for, especially in a year where we know we're going to have deficits that we need to make up. And the best way to do that is with certified teachers.
We're not cutting a position.
We're not cutting a position, and we didn't budget for it.
Well, it would be,
And you're also talking about adding a position that you would have to go on a warrant article.
Which one, Brian?
What she just said, using
For
that money.
support,
A
would have to go on
readiness.
a warrant.
Yeah. A readiness would be new. We
Mike,
budgeted.
Can we look outside the box and talk to Devin to see if there's any possibility of and maybe we already do this, but like kindergarten, maybe for the first quarter next year, having a paraprofessional permanently assigned to a teacher instead of moving with the kids.
They have them. Oh, you mean in the first grade?
First grade also?
Yeah, like a program para in first grade.
Okay.
We could look at a model like that to help.
I thought we had program paras. There were like,
no,
there were
I
like,
thought it was kindergarten.
how many are at GMS now?
So we're actually pulling a spreadsheet to answer that question. So we're going to report hopefully next week. Michelle, add this to the agenda. It's a report on our para usage K-12. And so we're in the middle of pulling that data for you. But I think program paras are only in kindergarten, and then it's 1-to-1 and shared paras at the upper grades.
So maybe we touch base with Devin and with the circumstances the way they are, see if we can do it for the first quarter, semester, whatever, next year in first grade to help out. They still focus on their caseload, but it would give some leeway in the class.
So the only question on the table right now is, do we go on the record and decide to have 5 classrooms now, or do we wait for the enrollment?
That's the question, Tina, because I think we're gonna hit it. When I look at 84, I think we're gonna hit that number, but I could be wrong. And the bottom line is we also want to hire the best third grade and fourth grade teacher we can, but we can't hire a third and fourth grade teacher and then have an extra first grade teacher because we have one under contract right now. So we have to make a decision about a transfer and put off hiring third and fourth. That's the dilemma, but it's the will of the board. If your feeling is the guidelines are the guidelines, you make the decision when you hit 84, then we'll do that. But that means we got to get going on knowing where we are with transfers.
Yeah. And registrations are still open right now for school.
Registrations are open. And if there's anybody in Litchfield listening to this conversation who hasn't yet registered a kindergarten or first grader, I would ask you, implore you, beg you to do that because we really want to know what those numbers are. And, we're trying to make this as easy as possible, but get the paperwork filled out so that we can have them on the rosters.
Yeah.
Are there any are all of our kindergartners automatically registered for first grade? If they're not, can we proactively reach out to those folks?
They're automatically registered.
They are, okay.
So if we reach 83 and we have 5 teachers, that'll be 16 kids in a class, or 17 with 83.
Yeah.
With 5 teachers.
And I can tell you from personal experience that 21 is too many
Yep.
at the level that these kids will be at.
But you had a para in your room. That's what our kindergarten teachers had last year. Yeah.
Yeah, there were 2 of us. We were both paras, and we were not trying to teach them any academic skills. It was all social emotional learning.
In the afternoon.
So hard to get there. So
I still think it's just a wait and see game at this point. You know, our next meeting might tell a different story.
I'm ready to call it and go with the 5, but I still a little bored.
If someone wants to make a motion, just keep in mind you're going
I'll make a motion to maintain 5 first grade classrooms for the 2020-21 school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So right now we're authorizing a teacher for class sizes that's below our policy. Right. And again, just in anticipation, same thing that happened with kindergarten, and we didn't go with another kindergarten teacher. That's fine. So is there any further conversation? Hearing none, all those I'm sorry, did someone have something?
We did have a second. I'll say aye.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Tina, you said aye, right?
Aye, yeah.
All those opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Abstained? So Tina's a yes. Tara?
No.
Liz?
Yay.
Rob?
No.
And Brian's a no. Fails 1-4. And again, like I said, it doesn't mean we can't revisit in 2 weeks.
I mean, I'll vote as soon as we hit the trigger number. I'll vote yes. I just don't think we can jump around after decisions we made last year.
Yep. So I really appreciate that discussion. I know these things aren't easy. The only thing that makes it a little bit different is if we're adding a kindergarten teacher that we don't know versus moving, like at the last minute, adding a kindergarten person we don't know versus transferring one of our existing teachers, right? So I just wanted us to make sure we had the discussion. You've given us guidance. I'll talk to Scott in the morning, and we will proceed ahead at this point. And then the other piece is it's not, coming into the meeting, it was a 3rd grade opening. Now it's a 3rd and 4th. So we've got a little bit of flexibility on how to proceed. So thank you for that. That's appreciated.
All right, that brings us to community forum. Do you have anything, Tina?
Oh, I do. Sorry. I lost my tab with the agenda. We had an email from Michelle Mills. I forwarded it to Michelle. Michelle is a parent of 2 high school students, and she's been an educator for 28 years. And she wrote to advocate for ending school on May 29th. She said that remote learning is not an equal substitute for brick and mortar straight direct education, and the stress on staff and students isn't productive or appropriate. And she noted that having a senior has added many more challenges and stress, especially for their senior milestones, than is fair for any student or to have to endure. So she wrote in support of ending school on May 29th. And then we had a question from Darwin Valencia, asking how we plan to spend the money from the CARES Act, about roughly $80,000 that we'll be getting from the CARES Act. And it's not to be used for Title I funding, so she's just curious, didn't know if we had made any decisions about that. And let me see.
I have input as a community member, when you
Okay.
finish. You know.
Okay, go ahead, Liz. I'm reading another email that I just received.
Elizabeth McDonald, 46 Natticook Ave. I am wondering if it's possible for the board and the high school to have VLAX classes add into the GPA, because what we're doing now is nothing different from what the VLAX class we are doing right now with my son. It's the same setup. It's the same exact thing. Why can't that probability and statistics count towards his GPA? He's working just as hard. He's getting just as much instruction. I just would like it to count towards his GPA this year, just solely because we're doing remote learning, just like he's doing in math.
It should count every year. I thought Bill said they were looking into that, Mike.
So they are. We have on the radar. We've had conversations about revising that. So it's a really good point. I think this whole remote learning has just opened our eyes to so many things, so many practices that we engage with that are not making as much sense any longer. So it's a point well made, and we'll stay at that and try to get an answer on it.
Yes.
Mike, could I ask if they do go forward with that they retroactively do it to a student that took it during their high school career, if that's still in Campbell?
I don't think that's something you want to do. I mean, we don't retroactive
Well, no,
anything.
if they decide to do it next year and Liz's son finishes this May, why should he not get the GPA if he's still there? I can understand kids that graduated 2-3 years ago, but if a student's still in high school, took a VLAX course, and they changed the policy, he should get the benefit of it.
Yeah,
He or she.
and I think that's something the high school can look into.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just asking that he look into it.
I also think that we should look into the CTE CTE classes getting letter grades as well. And Rob, the reason I'm bringing it up is I wouldn't have said anything, but the fact that everyone else is learning math online and getting credit to GPA, my son's learning it online, and he should get credit for his GPA.
I agree with you 110%. My son took a class on VLAX, learned a ton, and got the P, but he learned a ton in the class, so they should get it.
Both of those are things that have been in discussion since the beginning of this year. Not only the VLAX, but also the CTE.
Okay.
So, I mean, that would be a follow-up question for Bill in terms of where they've landed with that. But I do know that has been a push since the beginning of this school year.
Okay.
I mean, it's so relevant right now. And it just is. Why is my son's math going to be a P and everyone else is going to get an 80 or 90 or anyone else? I'm using my son as an example.
No, Liz, I hear you. And like I said, Bill has the information. We'll pass it forward to him. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Tina, anything else?
You're
Tina?
muted, Tina.
One parent was looking for further clarification on the AP Bio, AP Chem rotation. So I would just say, once we get that rotation set in stone, make sure that that goes out to the student body. Her concern was that we have sophomores who want to take both. And so we'll need to register for bio for next year.
Yep.
Or to get chem the following year.
And I agree. And that's what I was saying to Jody. And she mentioned November. And I mean, they'll figure it out. But I mean, November's too late because then we're right back in the same quagmire we're in right now. The exact same thing.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
Can I say something? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I think they should be polling in November, but for 2 years out at that point.
Yeah.
We should be counseling our freshmen. This is the path, if
Correct.
you want to take these courses.
Well, I guess I don't understand the polling, because if you're going in a rotation, the numbers shouldn't matter.
That's correct.
If we say chemistry's next year, it's got to be next year. You can't poll. It's got to be next year.
I agree, Rob. Exactly. But
Yeah.
we'll let them figure it out.
That was my confusion.
Yeah.
That was new. So so there's two things. Just so parents hear me say this, it's not just about biology and chemistry. The high school really has to look at all the courses, get them on a rotation and clearly lay it out. There are more courses than this that we need to have available. So, so we'll meet with Bill in the morning and we'll map it out. And I think a really clear communication grid of what's running when has to be established.
Can I mention something to Michelle's?
Yeah, hold on.
Email?
Liz, wait. I just want to
Okay.
know if there's any more public input.
Okay.
Tina?
I as a community member.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Good, Liz.
Can I go?
Yeah.
I think it was last week, the governor kind of opened the door. The governor and the commissioner of education kind of opened the door for schools to move to a potentially a pass-fail model. Obviously, it doesn't make sense at all levels, but I have spoken to, some parents who really feel, and I feel certainly at the elementary level, this is it's something to consider, and I haven't heard at the board level if we are considering that.
We talked about that that was brought up a few weeks ago, Tara. I know that we touched on it.
So
that high school is not an option,
Right.
but we never really talked about elementary. I mean, I think it was that maybe it was under consideration, but as far as I know, there's not been any decision.
yeah, so just a couple of things. So the governor had encouraged schools to have the dialogue, but he said it's a local control issue. I can't tell you what to do.
Right.
It's up to local schools to decide what is best for your students and your community. Mary and I have engaged in dialogue with the principals. What I'd like to do is bring that as a topic, Michelle, if we can add grading under our COVID update for the next meeting next Wednesday. And just to give you an update of where we are in the decision making. I will say the high school pretty clearly wants to stick with traditional grades. There are way too many question marks out there about impacts of P's and F's and other letters that you want to come up with. So I think we have to, make sure that our transcript has integrity and it can be understood by people. Less of a factor at the middle school or the elementary, but we'll give a thorough report at the next meeting on it.
Okay, perfect. And then I had one more thing. So I have my facts in front of me now, the $37 million in CARES Act funding. Thank you for breaking that down to about the 80,000. I'm kind of hoping that maybe next week or in the near future, we'll start getting an idea of what we're going to be using that money for. I understand it can be used for technology, training, overtime, those kinds of things. I just wasn't sure if maybe it could also be used to fund some of our food service overrun. But I would love to hear kind of where we're at with that, if we can. So
we will. And one thing to keep in mind, I don't believe they've even released that money to us yet. So I don't think we can even build. So what'll happen is the state will load it up into the database, and it will then become available to us as a grant that we can apply for. And then you have to characterize programs that you want to do within that grant, right? But right now, it's not even, it's all theoretical money. I think it's coming, don't get me wrong. But keep in mind, DOE just got dumped all this money that they have to figure out how to allocate and get to us all. So, so as it stands, I don't think we've even seen it yet. But I see Corey waving his hand like he wants to jump in.
I just from thing to everything, I got a couple pieces in terms of funding. The state had to apply and certify for that themselves. That was just submitted today. So there's no money on hand yet. And then once received, they need to release guidance on what we can do. Everything comes down to all these documents that they post on New Hampshire Learns Remotely and all the things. So we need guidance from them. Coupling that, he said that probably around May 8th, Caitlin Davis, who's one of the financial people up at the DOE, she's going to have a phone call and host that phone call to kind of walk through what steps are going to be. So, and part of it too, she even said that if you spend a certain amount of money, it's going to be retroactive to the 13th. So you can go back and find the things that were directly related to COVID-19, and then you can request reimbursement if you would any other grant.
that's what I heard.
The other piece that he mentioned today was, especially in terms of our IDEA grant, which is a multiple year grant. There's multiple ones open each year. But part of that funding expires at the end of September, I believe. So the U.S. Department of Education has not recommended adjusting the period of availability for our grant funding, which means we could lose some money. So the commissioner says he's going to advocate in order to do that, because it's that the IDEA focuses in on special ed students. So if we lose chunks of that money, it'll make it a little harder to catch those kids up. So I'll stay tuned to that as he has the phone calls. I don't know why the U.S. Department of Education would want to just give us an additional time with our grant funding and make sure that we use it for what we need it for.
Nice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Sure.
All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? No one?
Liz, I think that was Liz.
Liz Ways.
I just want people to know that there are a lot of, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There are a lot of end dates out there, and it all depends on all sorts of different things. One school does one thing, one does another. Did they start before Labor Day? Did they start after Labor Day? Just because one school stops on May 29th doesn't mean they all can stop. I'm just talking about Michelle's.
Yep.
It's a process.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts in every district, so doing the best we can.
Absolutely. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So maybe.
Second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who made the motion?
Liz.
All right, Liz made the motion. Tina second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So I'm not going to do a roll call because everyone said aye. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
No, 1 week.
No,
1 week.
next week.
It's
Sorry.
next week.
Oh, my God.